Say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? Allow us to begin this interaction this evening of your time with the reminder that we have entitled this week's interaction, The Sound. It will come this time in a way that is a little bit different, in the form of what you call a story. Are you all in the mood for a story? All right. Now, a portion of this story will involve a very brief amount of what you call audience participation. I will let you know when the timing is appropriate for that. All right? Oh, thank you. And so, before we begin, snuggle up or snuggle down. Allow yourselves to become very comfortable and relax and recognize that we will, of course, be communicating with you on many different levels throughout this interaction. But for now, simply enjoy the idea of the sound. It begins with a being, no particular place, no particular time. Perhaps much like one of yourselves, perhaps not. Similar enough. And this being, one day, heard a story that said, there is a sound that can be found, and when discovered, can alter the very existence, the very fabric of space and time. Well, this excited the being a lot. And so the being decided to set out in search of this special sound, this magical sound, whatever it is. The being did not know, but would search anyway, because the being was sure that when the sound happened, the being would know, would recognize it. So off the being went, thinking perhaps first to itself, well, let me see, let me think, let me feel. A sound, a magical sound. Where do you suppose such a sound would come from? As the being was walking, ran into another being who happened to have a friend along as well. And they said, well, good day, where are you off to? I'm in search of the sound, the magical sound, most profound, when discovered will change the course of space and time and alter all of the universe. Oh my. There is such a sound, they said. I have heard it so said. May we search with you, for that sounds most exciting. By all means, I would enjoy the company, so now there were three. You know how we love three. And so the three set off in search of the sound, the mysterious, mystical, magical sound. And they discussed among themselves as they went, where do you suppose such a sound would be? One of them said, well, you know, there are many sounds that animals make. Do you suppose it might be one of those sounds? And so they went into their forests and their jungles and listened to all the sounds that the different animals might make. And they spent a lovely day peering into bushes and under rocks and in caves, climbing tall trees and forging broad streams, lying in the grass, listening to the small sound, and the large sound, and the sweet sound, and some that were a little bit scary, but that's all right. For they contained much power, and they thought, well, perhaps in one of those is the mystical power that unlocks space and time and changes everything. And they listened, and they copied and mimicked all the sounds they heard that day in the jungle and the forest. And they got very good at sounding like animals. But none of the sounds, even though it allowed them to enjoy themselves and enjoy nature, none of the sounds seemed to strike that chord none of the sounds to them carried what they at least expected or thought the sound ought to be. And so they discussed once again among themselves, where do you suppose this sound could be? We have listened to every animal that there is, both large and small, both fast and slow. In the air, on the land, in the water, we have copied all the sounds they could make. And yet we have not found that special sound. What do you suppose it could be? They discussed among themselves, sitting in a meadow. And another of them said, well, do you suppose the sound might be in another land? There are many different cultures, and different cultures might make different sounds. Maybe we ought to travel to far distant lands to discover sounds we have never heard in our lives. And so they traveled around their world. And wherever they went, they were met with most exotic sounds, fascinating, vibrant, different sounds, different types of speech that any individual might make. And while they found it most educational and most fascinating and did excel in many different types of communication, they still did not find that sound, that one special, mystical, magical sound. Most elusive, they said, most puzzling. And they returned to their own land and did ponder once again. Do you suppose there really is no such sound? Oh, there must be, they said. There must be. Why would someone have created that idea if it were not something they really felt, something they had discovered once upon a time for themselves? The idea in our imaginations must exist. All we need do is call it forth somehow, somewhere, somewhen. That sound, it must exist. I know it is within our hearts. I know it is within our minds. But where will we find it so that we may experience it with our ears, with our being? Where is that sound that changes so much? The third one said, well, do you suppose the sound itself might be in the things of nature itself, around the very structure of the physical reality? There are many different substances in nature, and they all, in a sense, make different sounds. Do you suppose it might be one of those? And so, they scoured the countryside, picking up different kinds of rocks and banging them together, and scraping against trees and splashing in water and of various liquids, and swishing things around in the air. And they experimented all the next day long, making every sort of ringing and gonging and clanging and clapping and banging and slapping and smacking sound that they could. And by the end of that day, they were very tired. And also, to some degree, a little bit dejected. We have explored all the sounds animals might make. We have visited all the cultures in our world. We have tried and tested all the substances that nature has to offer. We have not discovered that most mystical, magical, elusive sound. And so they sat down back in their meadow, and they pondered, and they pondered, and they pondered. And none of them could come up with another suggestion. And so as they sat, all at once, all at the same time, here's where your part comes in. They all took in a very deep breath and all at once let out this sound. Oh Oh, my. Let's do that again. Oh, my. Oh, my. Once more to be sure. That's it! That's it! That's it, they cried. The sound we have been searching for far and wide. It is the sound that alters the very perception of things. It is the release, the flow of energy. It is, in that sense, the willingness to allow wherever you are and whenever to be. The place, the time, the sound. It is within us, they discovered. It is the release, the rush. It is the floating gentility. It is the trust, the trust. That is the sound that changes all things, that alters space and rewrites time. Everything in the world, the very structure of the rocks, look different when you release and be who you are. When and where. The sigh, the sigh. The sound of the taking of responsibility. The sound of the acceptance of the time in which you exist. The sigh, the sound of being comfortable with who you are. The sound of relaxing into yourself. We have found it. We have found it. We have found it. They sang and sang and were filled with much joy. And they did. From that day forward, anytime they felt that they had created a situation that was a little bit too far, a little bit too slow, a little bit too fast, a little bit too close, they did remember the sound that changes everything. And breathed it in, and breathed it through, and breathed it out again. And were whole, and centered, and fresh, and alive. And all it takes is one little sigh. The beginning. We thank you for allowing us to share this little pain, little perspective, little dream. We thank you for your co-creation in this way. We do remind you that this is the season for stories. And as we have said, next week of your time, we will share with you, because of your season, our version of a ghost story. At this timing, in exchange for the gift of the consciousness that you share with us, in exchange for the willingness to function as representatives of your society, and allowing me to function as a representative of the respective societies of the Association of Worlds, I will ask you now, how may I serve you?
Hi, Bashar.
And good day to you.
I have a story for you.
Oh, all right.
I wanted to talk about something that happened to my mother a couple of years before she died.
All right.
Mother had a real fascination with space beings and the idea of space visitation.
All right.
And she collected books like Chariots of the Gods and Gods from Outer Space and all the books that were popular years ago on landing sites on the Earth, possible landing sites and historical connections and all that. Well, she was dying of cancer when this happened. And she was up in her room. My sister was living nearby. I wasn't living there, but she told this to me later. She got a knock on the door one morning, and she hated to be disturbed because she wasn't well in the morning, but she went down to the door anyway. And she said that there was a man standing there who had the most wonderful eyes that she had ever seen, and that for some reason, just seeing those eyes, she felt totally relaxed and totally good at that moment to receive a stranger, you know. And
not a stranger, but go on.
But you know what I mean.
Thanks.
And he said to her, he said, I understand you are a reader. And she said, yes, I am. And he said, well, I have a book for you. And so he gave her this book. And they said a few more words, and then he left. And my mother read the book, and she was so excited about it that she called my sister up. I was living actually in a foreign country at the time. And she called my sister up, and she was explaining about the book, and said, you've got to read the book, and when I finish it, and when you come down, I'll give it to you to read. And so Mother read the book, and when my sister arrived about a week or so later, the book had disappeared, and they couldn't find it anywhere in the house, and she never did find it. And what I was curious about is, could you discuss with me about that? What did that mean? Was Mother somehow connected, or was she just ready for an experience to know a little bit more than most? And
it was, in that sense, the final pieces she needed to put into place to create the passage from your world to another. To know that she is, as everyone is, connected to all different levels. And in that sense, the book allowed her to finalize her passage, to put into place the conduit and the tunnel through which she would travel, in that sense. To let her know that always, no matter where you go, there are friends waiting to greet you.
And did that connection, that space connection, was it about beings that are considered like space beings, or was this just transformational information?
There was both within, and more.
That's very interesting. And what I'm curious about too is when we were in the mountains, when we were little kids, we used to spend the summers up in Idaho. And Mother lived in a very rural town in Idaho, in the mountains, and I was curious to know if we'd had any connection, like visitations at that time?
There were some identifications through telepathic contact, yes. But let me ask you a question, if I may.
Yes, please.
What is your physiological age as you count time?
45.
One moment. As we read the energy now, on or about the time you would call approximately the reversal of your age in numbers now, 54, there will be a very strong opportunity to receive in a very specific way some of the same information she received.
And is that connected to her too? Is that because
tangentially, yes.
Because I remember in the private session you told me she's one of my guides.
Yes, tangentially.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Sharing from a particular angle, not directly connected, but on the side. Hey.
Hello, Bashar. I wanted to thank you. You said a lot of times to follow your excitement and you'll get everything you need. And
I have said that?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you for reminding me.
And I was afraid that if I did my painting all the time, I spent a lot of time by myself. And I put myself totally into that in the last couple of weeks and just kept painting, kept going places alone. I felt closed off from almost everybody I know. Whenever I try and get in touch with people, I couldn't connect with them at all.
Yes.
And really wonderful things ended up happening from that because I found that wherever I went, I had whatever I needed in the form of companionship and friends.
Yes.
Which was kind of what you just said to her. I'd go way far away from here, and I'd have a feeling like, God, I wish I had somebody to talk to at dinner or something. All of a sudden, I'd meet somebody that I knew, and it's just happened. One thing after another.
Yes, the ecstatic explosion of synchronicity. That's the way life works when you let it work that way. Everything is connected to everything else, and when you proceed with that attitude and that focus, you cannot help but see occurrence after occurrence of what you call coincidence. Not accident, coincidence. Crop up over and over and over again in your life. Because when you are a particular vibration, you allow all other things of that vibration to come to the surface and to make themselves known. We thank you very much for your boldness and your willingness to have the conviction to reflect to yourself who and what you desire to be. You will always be supported in that action.
Thank you. I really believe that now, and I know it's really true.
Thank you. You see, that is why we always tell all of you, we cannot prove it to you. You must prove it to yourselves. But we can guarantee it will always work. That's all we can do. Guarantee it 100%. But we can't prove it to you. You have to do the proving yourself by taking the steps, but it will always work.
Well, after I was going through all those experiences, when I came here last week, after we were done, a man came up to me, and he was from New Zealand, and he had asked you a question about electromagnetic energy.
Yes.
And I talked with him and his friend, and he felt very strongly that there was something like that he should talk with me about. And we talked a little bit, and we kind of had a feeling maybe it was some kind of Japanese past life kind of thing or something, but we weren't real sure, so I wanted to ask you if there was any, if you would know what that was.
All we can tell you is, to some degree, yes, but that's all we can tell you. It is up to you to discover some of these things, not up to us to outline the entire idea. We do not want to unwrap your presence for you.
Well, is there any particular thing that I should do, or...
What does your imagination excite you to do? Is there any particular thing you would like to do that stands out more than any other with regard to this idea of awakening within yourself those vibrations that will allow the information you require to come in? What has your imagination suggested that you could do?
Well, the only thing I thought of, because he went back to New Zealand, was to write him a letter.
Anything else? I have a suggestion.
Yeah?
You can write yourself one, too. Send it off to your higher self and receive the reply in your dreams or in your physical life.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Just a suggestion. You can invent whatever way you wish. The whole idea is to understand that you can be in communication with yourself if you simply initiate it like you initiated everything else.
Okay.
Understand?
Yes.
Use whatever methodology your imagination comes up with that excites you the most. The excitement vibration is what is important and will put you on the appropriate level to understand all you need to understand.
Okay, I got it. Sounds
Thank
like
you.
fun.
Yes, yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
So go and ring some bells.
Hello,
Thank you.
Bashar.
Hello and good day.
Good day. How are you?
And perfect and you.
I am perfect.
Oh, thank you.
today. I would like to share something, and in connection with that, I would like to ask a question.
All right.
Few months ago, just after the intensives, Steve asked who would like to facilitate some of the intensives on tapes.
Yes.
And I was very excited about it. And
Yes.
some of us got together.
Yes.
And it kind of dragged out. And then a few weeks ago, to get my feet wet, I had a small group of people, very small, about 4 people, and I did some of the tapes, and it was very exciting.
Oh, very good.
It's wonderful.
What took you so long?
Well, what took me so long was that I had the workshop scheduled with Steve, and then somehow I got cold feet, and Steve was on a trip, and anyway.
Oh, all right. Cold feet and on a trip. All right.
And now we have one scheduled for November 5 and 6, and there seems to be very little response. And I'm wondering whether you can give us some awareness, insight. Is that the wrong timing? Is it the wrong format? Is it something that we should do differently? I'm not sure what's happening.
Well, all we can suggest at this time is to not necessarily expect that the response must come a very long time prior to the time you have announced you will do it. The response can be immediate, almost to the moment of the time you will do it. It does not necessarily have to give you that much forewarning, because the more you all live in the moment, the more spontaneous your interactions and gatherings will become.
So what you're saying, it's still appropriate to do that with our excitement.
If you believe that that time is appropriate for you, and you are really excited about that timing, then simply radiate it, put it out, and attract whatever you do attract.
Okay, fine.
It's up to you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being so bold.
Thank you.
Shooting!
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I haven't seen you since Hawaii to speak to you, so I'd like to say aloha nui kako.
All right, thank you.
I also have a suggestion for the sound.
Yes.
How about the sound of silence and spell it S-I-G-H?
Oh, thank you. How very sweet is the sound you make.
Thank you. I want to share with you something that happened
All
a couple
right.
of weeks ago.
Share with all. Speak up, be bold.
I'll try.
Don't try, you can do it.
Okay. Several weeks ago, I had a dream in which I entered a structure.
Yes.
And inside the structure was a large pond. And then I realized it wasn't a structure really, it was made of boulders and rocks.
All right.
And that the pond was larger than I had first perceived. There was a large boulder in the middle of it.
All right.
And as I stood there watching, I saw two boulders being lifted simultaneously, and they were tied to the same rope, but they were so immense that I didn't see how one rope could hold them both. And one was large and the other was small. And as I watched, the boulders were heaved over into the center of the crater, and they bumped against the cone that was sticking up, and they bounced and bounced all the way down. And there was no crane and no perceptible way of this being having just tossed them out into the center of the crater. And as I watched them going down, I looked into the water, and it was so clear. It was so clear, you could see everything. And I thought, I would love to get into that water and feel it around me.
And did you?
No.
Oh, why not?
Well, I'll explain.
Oh, all right.
As I heard the boulders bumping down the side of the mountain, I realized that the pond was much deeper than I had originally perceived. And as the boulders fell through space, they were being transformed and honed, and they were becoming less boulders and more some other type of material. And as they got toward the bottom of the pond, they were utterly transformed from boulders into crystalline objects, much as a plain piece of glass is transformed in the ocean, tumbling. Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to enter this water and go down there and see more closely what it was. But I kind of had the feeling that if I did, I wouldn't want to come back.
Oh, all right.
And then I realized that it was not actually water that I was looking into, it was liquid crystal.
Very good.
And that I was not on the edge of a crater, I was on the edge of a universe.
Yes.
And I was gazing down into another time and another place.
Yes. Did it feel exciting?
It's still exciting.
No, all right. What do you wish to do with this perception of energy?
The same thing that I wanted to do in Hawaii when you had me bang on the Kuan Yin statue.
Yes.
I wanted to go there, but I didn't want to go there by myself because I had a feeling I might not want to come back.
You're not alone.
All right. The city has crystal buildings, and the atmosphere and the beings there are familiar.
Yes.
And I see my home.
All right.
And I feel at home there.
All right. You are also at home where you are.
Oh, yes. But it was a very strange feeling, and I can see things now I didn't see then.
All right. You are perceiving right through the gate into an aspect of what you would call a type of causal plane. It is a direct view into one of what we, as a civilization, have begun to research that we call the quasi-planar realities. Because of your particular bent, because of your particular perspective, what you did is blend two symbologies that are different aspects, different representations of the same energy. In your Hawaii area, the energy is referred to as kahuna. In your American Indian area, it is referred to as kachina.
Yes.
It is the same energy.
Yes.
And now, I do not mean to be flippant. This is simply being used to explain in the most practical way, so to speak, in the way you will understand most quickly. What you were viewing to some degree was another dimensional energy reality that you interpreted to some degree as a town, as a city. It was, in a sense, on the outskirts, if you will, of what could be called Kachina Town. Energy beings of light and pure consciousness that are in and of themselves the very fabric that creates the dividing line between all the different universes that you perceive as different universes within creation. You looked into the very crystalline substance that gives form to all the different universes you would call physically material. The crystalline pool of energy symbolized in your dream in that way. The very essence of the primal energy out of which all material reality is solidified or crystallized. Understand? You are looking into the raw astral state of your collective consciousness. The template city, the template world you all inhabit, in a sense, all the time, and from which you channel the energy that solidifies your experience of yourself as a physical reality. Understand?
I'm processing.
All right. Let me put it in another way. I do not mean the terminology literally, as the way these words in your society used to mean, but it may explain the idea a little bit. You saw the dream version of your entire world. The collective mass dream version of your world, out of which each of you individually choose the life patterns and styles you will, with your beliefs, emotions, and thoughts, crystallize into physical materiality.
Oh.
Understand?
That explains something.
You are in the raw, plastic state of consciousness,
Yes.
out of which you crystallize everything you call physical. Does that clarify to some degree?
Yes, it does, and it also clarifies something else.
Yes.
While I was there
Yes.
in this place, I recognized my spiritual partner,
Yes.
and I know that we are here this time to accomplish certain soul commitments that we have made to
All right.
do this time. And I had the feeling that, as you had told me in Hawaii, rather than coming from a very ancient culture that brought a particular tone, a particular sound to this planet, rather than going back to that ancient historical culture, that this was future.
To some degree.
It looked to me as if it were in the future rather than in the past.
Yes. And the reason, another reason, I shared it with you in that way was to allow you to remember that the whole idea is not to, quote unquote, recapture what you believe was in your past, but to create what you desire representative of the idea of the past in the present now. Understand?
Yes.
That vibration is the world as you can create the world to be now. Does that serve you?
Oh, it serves all of us, Bashar.
Well, thank you.
I thank you.
Thank you for your co-creation.
I do, and I thank you for my nickname. I used pine trees this time,
Yes.
but you'll excuse me for that. You know who I am. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Shutting.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Good day. I put my name in just sort of as a lark.
A lark?
But I thought it'd be fun to talk to you. I haven't talked to you for a while. There is one thing that I have thought about in the last few days. Lot of...
One thing in a few days. All right.
Lots of things. But one thing that I thought I'd like to discuss with you, or see what you have to say about that. A lot of times you will say to people, once you have recognized something as a habit,
Yes.
it's not a habit anymore.
Yes.
And I, for one, have one habit which I dislike quite a bit,
All right.
which is very bad, which I've known was a habit for years.
All right. Why do you keep doing it then?
I don't know. I have, quote, tried many different techniques not to do it anymore.
Oh, all right.
And I keep doing it.
Oh, all right.
And I know it's a habit, and I still do it.
All right.
So I don't really agree with you that...
Oh, thank you.
Once you recognize something as a habit, it's not a habit anymore. Could you...
Recognize the full statement we have made.
Okay.
Once you recognize it is a habit, it is no longer a habit. And you can then recognize you do not have to keep doing it unless you either keep choosing to do it, or use it as an excuse to continue to do it, or do not really believe you have the capability of stopping it. That is the full statement.
Okay.
So, do you, if I may ask, really believe you have the capability of redefining yourself to become the person that does not contain that habit?
Well, that's one technique I've tried. Let me tell you what it is, and I'm not at all proud of it. I don't like it at all.
Oh, all right.
But I have found that sometimes when I talk about it, especially in a big crowd, that does reverse things sometimes.
Then this may be your technique now.
Anyway, the habit is that I wake up, I sleep like an hour and a half, 2 hours at a time, then I wake up and I smoke.
Yes.
And then I go back to sleep, and then I wake up and I smoke.
Yes.
And so I smoke throughout the night, which is terrible.
Do you enjoy it?
Well, yeah. Yes, I do.
All right. Why?
I don't know. Well,
you don't?
No, I'm sure it's because it's a physiological addiction.
Oh, one moment. Don't be too sure. Why do you enjoy it, if you do?
Because it's a habit.
Not necessarily.
Part of it is that I often do it half consciously. I just wake up and I don't think the way I think during the day.
All right.
And so
and if in that state you automatically smoke, what does it do for you?
I guess it fulfills some kind of need that my body has, for nicotine, and then I go back to sleep.
All right, but let's not think about it for now physiologically. What does the act itself do for you, atmosphere-wise, as you say?
I never thought about that.
Well, think about it now. What kind of mood does it create? What kind of mood does it help to reinforce, to perpetuate? Is it one of contemplation? Does the smoke, to some degree, symbolize your very thoughts? Does it seem to be your way of meditating?
Maybe.
Maybe. If that is what it does for you, it may, in your terminology, not be as negative as you think. Maybe not for you. Remember, every individual is different. And certain things that may even be generally negative within the consensus reality does not necessarily have to be negative for everyone, depending on how you use it. Many individuals can transform what may be negative to the general population into something that has no negative effect on them. How are your lungs?
Well, surprisingly good, considering I've smoked for so many years.
Surprisingly good. All right. Then maybe it simply doesn't affect you that way because you don't buy into it that way. And maybe that's why it's all right for you to continue to do something that actually is representative of your way of meditating and not necessarily has to be thought of as a negative habit. What about that?
Well, that's possible. I do fall asleep with cigarettes in my hands, and I burn my knife.
All right.
And burn myself.
Then perhaps just a slight variation of the idea is all that is really necessary, more than an absolute transformation of it. Perhaps allow yourself to simply put the cigarette out first.
I've thought about that.
The idea is, perhaps, that if you do have a different attitude about it, you may allow yourself to be a little more conscious and conscientious of exactly how you are using it, and will allow the timing and your awareness of what you need to do with it to be done in a more natural way. For if you are coming from the point of view that it is something you shouldn't be doing, then you may not be paying attention to the natural timing of it. and the natural timing of it may give you, in no uncertain terms, the absolute signal as to when to put it out.
Huh.
For you, it may be an extension of something you have done in the past, smoking the peace pipe.
Yeah, we've talked about that
Yes.
once before. Mm-hmm.
So if you can use it in a similar fashion, it can be an act of meditation. It can, as many of you say, be your version of prayer. Because that is what the smoke from the American Indian peace pipe represents. Prayer. Spirit.
Interesting.
So, look at it that way and see if that makes a difference.
Yeah, you know, something just happened. Now, I've noticed many times when we talk that I do get things at different levels without realizing it, or I
Yes.
realize it later that night or something like that. And I just, a few minutes ago, I just felt it. It was
Yes.
very nice.
Thank you. And also remember, one other thing we have talked about regarding symbols and physical ideas and action. When you allow a symbol to serve the purpose you actually have designed it to serve, when you give it the definition, when you recognize the definition you actually have given it, that's when you may not need it any longer,
Yeah.
and then it will transform.
Right.
In continuing to apply the assumption that it automatically must be negative just because of the way it looks on the surface, you have not allowed yourself to recognize perhaps what the real definition and purpose of that particular act was, and therefore could not allow it to change because you had not identified it for what it was to begin with. Understand?
Yes, I do. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much. See if that makes a difference.
Thank you, it will. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Shooting!
Hello, Mr. Ambasso Matt.
Hello, Mr. Ambassadorable.
Thank you very much. I was wondering if you would pick up on the reverse and call me Mr. Diplodor.
Thank you.
Another variation.
Hey.
Very deep, probing, incisive question for tonight.
Oh, all right. Surgical precision about to
Yeah.
take place.
Do you have any money riding on the World Series?
No.
Actually, I don't really have a big question or anything, but I have been fascinated by the perturbations in our status quo.
All right.
Status quo.
Yes.
Our earthquake a month ago or so.
Yes.
And, now
And then your economy quake.
Yes, exactly. And
Everything is being shaken up.
yeah, I was really I just am really proud of us
Oh.
for not panicking on this thing.
Yes.
You know, we got our computers.
You notice the difference now, do you?
Yes.
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 You are taking it in stride. Oh, just another major economic upheaval. Just another symbol rearranging itself again.
Yeah. And I got the feeling that people were going, hey, we can have these large perturbations without the sky falling in, so to speak.
Yes.
And, oh, now we can relax because it's not going to happen disastrously again.
Very good.
Yeah, so I think this is the year for that, isn't it? You said something like that, didn't you?
Yes. What you call your 87 has been in many ways the convergence and the year of manifestation and recognition. Your year of 88, if we can apply any label to it at all, could be the year of conviction.
Yeah. As a result of seeing these perturbations.
Conviction. Oh.
As a result of seeing these perturbations not be disastrous.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Any quote unquote prediction for Halloween in terms of a perturbation in some other area?
Just the story that we have to share next week of your time.
Oh, that's going to be.
That might shake.
An Apache gold crystal sphere came to me. I had it for 2 weeks, and then I manifested it being lost.
Oh, all right.
Okay. A pink, purple, lavender, lepidolite, quartz, something else, and it also...
Something else.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Oh,
Pink,
all right.
Pink something.
A pink something. Yes, all right. And the third?
And turquoise, Zuni mountain lion fetish.
Yes, and so?
Okay, so The first two came to me, and then they both, like, have been lost, or...
They're not lost. They know where they are.
Okay. All right. Okay,
What
I don't know.
did you discover about yourself when you had them in your physical possession? What did they, in that sense, reflect to you?
Well, each one something kind of different.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Power.
Power. Your own power, yes?
Yeah.
And so?
Okay.
Do you need them to continue to reflect the power, or can you use it now? Without the trigger?
Okay, that's this other thing that's coming up with me now. Last like a week or 7 days, I've been like...
I didn't quite catch that.
That's just what it's felt like just this growling, just.
Yes.
And I've been having these when I meditate.
Very interesting sound.
Yeah, and that's why when you said that, when you were talking, it was just a little before about animal sounds and sounds, and that's just been what's been happening to me.
How does it feel?
It feels like I want to just like climb on walls and just like that. And it's just and I need to do that. I can't sometimes just want to, you know. And right now it's like I'm embarrassed.
Oh, that's all right. It was a wonderful performance.
Now,
that energy, to what use do you wish to put that energy? Besides the growling.
It'll be put in my performances and my theater somehow.
Yes. All right.
And I'm sure it'll come when I start, when it's time to come or something.
Yes, absolutely. And so?
Okay, so I was laying in the bathtub also, and...
Stop.
Okay.
Just a reminder to all of you, one of the strongest meditation booths you have. Your bathtub and or your shower. How many times have you been inspired within them?
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay, so I was laying in the bathtub, and then that's when, and I had, this green maltodectite something. I can never pronounce these names of these crystals. Yeah. Okay. On my brow here, and then a quartz on around my heart, around my solar plexus. Okay, and then in the meditation, that's when I saw my arms become like these paws.
Yes.
And first my body went to this angle, and I got the picture of this mountain lion laying on this big rock, and then I felt her, and then I looked, and my hands just started going in this paw shape, and I could feel from my shoulders to my arms the hands and the way it felt as a lion and everything, and that's when I started just doing these growls and all this stuff, and then since half of my ears were underneath the water, when I would make these I would take these sighs like we were doing, going. And underneath the water, there's these different levels. You'll hear the and then behind about 2 or 3. I'm talking about from a feeling level. I got this image, this real pure sound like Abraham's bowls that I had go. And so
you have found a way to very powerfully center and energize yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Okay. But see, I guess I'm trying to get at there's something that's coming with the fetish, okay? I got lost. I was driving down the street. I got lost, and I knew there was a reason I got lost. I looked up. There was this Indian museum. I went inside, and I had a dream about an object a few months ago, and it was this side of this profile. In the dream, I couldn't identify it. I didn't know what the heck it was until I went in there, and I saw it, and I just
Yes.
Okay, so
what?
What is this? Well, I mean, okay, I know what it is.
What is it?
It's just a power symbol.
It is you connecting into many more aspects of your being. Both what you would call past lives, spirit guides, your own center of power, the place from which you can come to do anything and everything you want to do. You're identifying with the power of your natural self, even as the animals do, even as you did when you connected in other lives to the American Indian culture that knows that still, that can connect into that level of nature, into the very fundamental primal chord of existence, and from that center of being can transform and create anything you desire. That's what you have discovered. Now use it in whatever way you want to.
Okay.
Do what excites you the most. You are, in that sense, unstoppable.
Yeah. I know. I just have to ask this one more thing.
Are you?
Okay. The other... Okay, so I've been talking to these trees lately.
Yes.
And they really, you know,
yes.
They talk, and I
yes.
can feel how, like, I'll let it go so far where it's, like, comfortable. I still think I have some kind of mental control over it. And then I'll let myself go to a point where I'll feel like my body it feels disformed, and I could actually, like, I could feel myself crossing over a barrier or something, like, into this, like,
but this is natural. You are all these things. All of you. You are all these things. Physical reality is made of your consciousness. You are all these things. They are you. They are aspects of you, reflections of you. Why should you not feel like them? You can be and are anything you wish. You will always be centered in whatever your intention is. You will never lose yourself.
Okay.
You will always know your identity. It is only a misconception on the part of what you have been trained to think, that the more you blend with the infinite, the more your individuality suffers. And that's not so. It's just the opposite. The stronger an individual you become, the more you discover yourself in all those things. Understand?
Right. Yeah.
Does that help you?
Yeah.
So flow with it and use it as the individual you choose to be. You are never out of control. Even if you create the scenario that makes it seem as if you are, you're still controlling that.
Mm-hmm.
So, play and enjoy and express and create. That's what you're there to do.
Right.
So have fun.
Thanks.
Thank you. One more. Within what you call the next 3 days, let's say the next 3 dream times, see what doors you have opened within this interaction and see what else comes that will accelerate you into an unexpected direction. Sharing.
Hello, Bashar.
And who you good day.
I wondered if you could tell me when that special someone will come into my life.
You mean that special someone or that special someone? Or what about that one?
Any
or what
of
about
them.
the one right there?
The special soulmate.
Special soulmate.
Yes.
Are you aware of some of the things we have already discussed about this idea?
I'm not sure.
Oh, what? Do you understand what our definition of a soulmate is?
I don't know. This is my first time here.
All right. Mine too. In that sense, recognize every relationship, I will be brief, every relationship serves a purpose, is there for a reason. On the fundamental level, because you are always learning what you need to learn about yourself in any relationship, and are being of service to the other individual in that relationship to allow them to learn what they need to learn about themselves to grow and change. Every relationship is a relationship with a soulmate on the fundamental sense of the word. Understand so far?
Yes.
Now, we know what you often mean in your society by the idea of a soulmate, and that does exist. However, more often than not, we have discovered that in your society, the attitude will usually be as follows, that if only you could discover your soulmate, then everything would be just wonderful, but not until then. Your physical reality is the product of your strongest definitions and your strongest beliefs. if you believe you are incomplete without that person, you will usually wind up only attracting someone to reflect your belief in your own incompleteness. When you know you are complete unto yourself, not that you will not change and grow, but as you are still a whole idea, and your first relationship is to yourself and with the infinite. When you act in that manner and radiate that frequency, that's when you give off the vibration that gives someone else in your life that you may have made an agreement with to come into your life to reflect back to you as an equal the vibration you are already putting out. If you already shine as the brightest light you can, then someone on the same level, as a mirror, as all of you are to each other, can reflect that light back to you. The brightest light that can be reflected back to you can only be as bright as the light you are. Understand?
I understand.
That is what you typically call the soulmate. And it can exist in your reality. It doesn't always have to be a single individual, but it can be.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Shooting!
Hi, Bashar.
Hi.
I know you've taken some time before in the past to diagram your own scout ship.
Yes.
And I know that we did a meditation once where we all went onto the mothership and went around and explored.
Yes.
But I wanted to know if tonight you would just take a few moments and just diagram a little bit one of the motherships and what the different sections are for. And I know that each one might even be different, but
yes.
If you could pick one.
Well, we will use the same one we have used before that in your terminology would translate out into the name of the solar wind.
Okay.
It is approximately 1 of your miles in length, almost, just about. And the idea is it will be a cylinder in form, generally speaking, and will have many decks within it, but those decks are also, in your terms, cylindrical. A cylinder within a cylinder within a cylinder within a cylinder, and so on, for approximately what you would call 30 cylinders within. What this will be is that you can then circumnavigate the entire cylinder on any level, all the way around. And then decks are apportioned accordingly to different sections in that sense. There are approximately what you would call 3 main engines that bridge all decks. 1 in the center, and 2 near either end. These are also cylindrical or disc-shaped in fashion, and in that sense are cavernous, bridging all decks. What you would call a 60-deck cross-section. The idea, therefore, being that there are 30 cylinders, which means you have, from the outer skin down to the center core, 30 decks, and then, of course, a repeat of the 30 decks from the center core out to the other side. The center is where all the engines are connected, and in the very center there will be what you would call a non-inhabitable space all the way through the central core of the ship that will be the drive mechanism in colloquial terms. At either end, in also a cylindrical fashion, is what you would call, colloquially, your bridge at either end. In the very outer shell will be what you call the hangar bay for various scout crafts that come and go. There will be the idea, once again, also of manufacturing of many of these scout crafts in that outer hull.
Oh.
The idea also will contain, in the outer hull, many different forms of environment to accommodate many different life forms from many different civilizations.
Why just the outer one?
Because it is the easiest access. As a ship enters the hull, obviously the first deck they hit is the outer one. So they can then simply propel their craft right into an environment and step right out of their craft at home. Understand?
Yes.
Then, as you progress toward the center of the ship, you will find there will be many different levels and decks that are relegated to various forms of exploratory enterprise, as you would call it, research in that sense. There are also vast arrays of open space that are relegated to very park-like atmospheres where we enjoy the idea of nature and in that sense bring it with us. The idea is also that there will be many levels simply for experiencing different environment to accommodate different beings, to shift from one environment to another, as they may choose to do. These might be called pressure chambers in a sense, although it is not exact as you mean the term. There will also be the idea of the communication stations that we have called in very, very colloquial terms, not literal at all, the communication stations we have termed the chapels in that sense, which are rooms, chambers of crystalline formation that allow an individual to be touched directly in with the infinite. There will also be what you would call amplification modules that allow individuals to tap into specific frequencies of different dimensions for the purpose of some of the channelings, as you call them, that go on in this form of communication. For do remember that the most natural receiver device is already living beings. The idea also is that certain other decks will contain many of the ideas that you would call leisure activities in that sense, when individuals may simply play. And there are whole simulated environments in that way that individuals can create simply by a connection to the main computer of their consciousness, and can explore different realms in that way, almost as if they were literally, in your terms, physically visiting those dimensions, able to exist in those atmospheres without actually existing physically within them. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
There will also be what you would call the association council chambers, wherein can be the projection of many different levels of consciousness to gather in meetings, as it were, to understand the ebb and the flow of the organization and the communication that goes on between the hundreds of worlds of the association. There will also be the creation of experimental, as you call it, environments. Environments we have not encountered per se, but environments that we can create in that sense, to explore and experiment with the many ways that the universe can manifest itself. Large and vast areas are given over to the creation of entire ecologies on the ship, so that we may understand the full workings of any particular planetary society by literally recreating vast areas of their entire ecosystem.
Would you have any Earth-like?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. And on the solar wind, as on Essassani itself, there are a few dolphins. There will be a few other ideas, a few other chambers, whose purpose in that way will not necessarily be that easy nor brief to describe.
Okay, this is sufficient.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Shirley!
Yes, I'm coming.
Oh, all right.
I'm sure. I'm Frankie.
Hello, Frankie.
Oh, that's right. I'm tall and I'm Frankie.
All right.
And I've just said, no, okay.
Almost all of you are most probably taller than I am.
They talk about how you teach best what you most need to learn and all of that. So I feel that perhaps relationships is the area that I've come in to have as an area of expertise. Sometime I hope in the near future.
You what?
I hope.
Hope?
Okay.
That means you doubt?
Apparently. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm asking questions.
All right. Can you all hear this person?
Okay. Speak louder. Okay.
Be bold. Yes.
The thing in my entire life that's excited me the most is the relationship that I'm in right now.
All right.
And by following that excitement, I've found like some of the most incredible teachings in my life.
Yes.
And wonderful feedback.
Yes.
Now
what do you wish to do with that information?
I'd like to be as clear as I can possibly be about it.
Yes.
So that I can have the clearest relationship possible and be able to share that with others.
All right. Go ahead.
And I feel like some clarity is still necessary. I still have...
Right. In what area?
Okay. In the way that the relationship seems to show up on the surface, there still seems to be some dichotomy in that it is the relationship that I want to have and would like to have for what I can see to be an eternity or through this lifetime.
Oh, all right.
Different different feedback from what he says it is to what I say it is, and
right.
yet not really different in the manifestation of the relationship. So I want to understand why there seems to be the dichotomy. I guess I want to know that the relationship is all that I have seen it to be and believe it to be.
The relationship is anything you create it to be.
In some ways, I must feel that I don't have all of the skills to be able to do that.
Maybe. But what skills do you think you need? Other than the living of your life to the fullest.
Well, I guess I feel like I want to have the clearest communication skills.
All right.
And
can you imagine what those might be?
I'm starting to think about it in terms of energies and kind of a knowing acceptance.
All right. You mean a trust?
Yeah.
A knowing acceptance doesn't necessarily mean, however, that you settle for something you do not prefer.
Right.
Understand? And that also means that you are willing to allow whatever changes do occur to happen. The first relationship is with you to yourself.
Right.
Now, sometimes a single individual you may have made an agreement with to reflect the idea back to you for the duration of what you call your lifespan. Sometimes not. Sometimes many individuals. Sometimes both. Mm-hmm. It will depend.
Well, I'm most interested in this particular one.
Yes, for now. Yes. And it may be the idea that can manifest for the duration of the lifespan. But first and foremost, if you know that it's so, then allow whatever is happening within it to be representative of what needs to be in the relationship, but only to the point where it is not, in that sense, an absolute polarization of what you prefer to experience in your own reality.
Right. Okay, well, it's somewhere in between right now.
Oh,
so
well, are you still learning?
I am still learning.
Then continue to do so, because that's what any relationship is for.
Right.
Plain and simple. And if you are going to be with this individual, as you say, for a long time, in your terms of time, then there are simply going to be the opportunities to learn many and varied subtle things.
Yes.
Enjoy the path. You are getting out of it at any given moment, obviously, what you need to get out of it, if that's where you prefer to be.
Okay. Well, one of the aspects that I'm curious about is how I can take action according to what excites me, and still be respectful of whatever space that he might want to have in his life.
Do you trust the relationship?
Still here.
All right. Then in that sense, take whatever action represents what really excites you. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time recognize that if another individual is not ready or willing to receive a particular communication from you in the way that you are ready to give it, then trust that that is also a part of the timing.
Okay. Are there keys that I might have in terms of some of the aspects that I've been working with energetically to be able to understand better how to communicate in the moment, more lovingly, more respectfully, how to make communication over a distance even though the distance seems to exist, and I don't have access to talking to him or seeing him every day or being with him all the time in that way.
But you are always connected.
Right. So are there keys to knowing that and utilizing the space to actually expand upon my energies or my ways of communicating?
One way would be to express yourself in many different ways as well. Is there any other service that excites you to be doing?
Outside of the relationship or within?
As you mean it, outside the relationship. It will all be a part of the relationship. But as you typically mean it, yes, outside the relationship.
Okay. I would like to take all that I've assimilated and be able to communicate it to people. And I feel...
Then as you do so, and as you form an outlet for communication in that way, you will continue to learn the things you need to learn to recognize the timing within the relationship more precisely. It must be expressed in both directions.
Yes.
Understand? Then it will be a full circle.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I should put my attention.
I'm not going to tell you should.
That would be a good place to, if I
will
chose
suggest that it will allow you to be more well-rounded. And therefore give yourself more capability of recognizing the timing on either side. Understand?
I feel a little time pressured with the holidays because my sense or my excitement tells me that I would like to be with him during the holidays.
We understand that. But also pay close attention to the idea that sometimes there's a very fine line between the energy that you actually are honestly labeling excitement and when it becomes anxiety and desperation. Because that's not really excitement, and you're being dishonest with yourself if you call it that. Understand?
So if I can get clear that it's excitement, then maybe I can have it.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you. Sharing.
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I came here to experience your wisdom. I've never been here before.
Do not forget that you are experiencing your own.
Thank you.
For we are only a reflection of what you all already know. And every time to us is the first time as well.
I did not put my name in to be selected, and yet my name was called.
All right.
And the only thing that I can explain this to is that you had some communication that you wish to deliver to me. So that is my question. What is the communication you wish to deliver to me?
Nope. It will be the communication you wish to deliver to yourself. Now, we will begin once again in the form of the question. Are you doing in your life what excites you the most?
I'm searching for what excites me the most.
When do you assume you might find it? Let me ask it another way. What would you really like to be doing that you're not doing? Have you ever had any kind of a fantasy?
Well, a satisfactory primary relationship.
Satisfactory primary relationship. But as we have already said, that begins with you.
Right.
So, aside from that idea, in terms of actually being of service, doing something, what you typically call making a living, what do you want to do that you're not doing?
I want to spread myself out to the point where I feel that I have a good relationship with myself.
Yes.
Okay.
But how do you express it? In your physical actions?
In my physical actions?
Yes.
In terms of living a life of giving.
All right. And does that excite you?
Yes.
All right. And does it allow you to feel, in that sense, that you are infinitely abundant and can attract everything you desire when you really need it?
When I'm living life that way, yes.
All right. Are there times when you do not live life that way?
We all do.
I beg your pardon, I don't. Please speak for yourself.
There are times when I am not constantly living a giving life.
All right. Would you prefer to constantly be living a giving life?
Yes.
Well, then why aren't you? What definitions do you contain that make it seem as if you must, from time to time, not live in a full, ecstatic way?
Interesting concept.
Well, thank you. Do you want to discuss it now, or would you like to ponder it?
I guess it's looking inward, and when you start looking inward, you're not living a giving type life.
Oh, no. Looking inward is the key. What must go along with it is doing outward. Looking inward and acting outward with that inner knowledge.
Even when you're acting on your own wants?
Yes. Why not?
Okay.
As long as you know that you are doing so with full integrity and that you deserve what you desire, then why not? Do you believe you deserve what you desire?
Definitely.
All right. Then, do you believe you have a clear definition of what it is you say you desire?
Yes.
All right. Do you really honestly desire it?
Yes.
All right. Is your overall intention clear in life? Your attitude, your approach?
It's becoming more clear.
All right. And are your actions clear? In other words, do you act upon the opportunities at any given moment that excite you the most that you are capable of acting on? Whether they appear to be connected to what you think you want or not?
I think I'm getting to that point that I am, yes.
All right. Then you are, in that sense, on the threshold of creating what we would call, in ship technology, a flashover, where you can simply understand that any definition you believe yourself to be most strongly will be the reality you experience. Plain and simple. But that A, as you have already understood, the first relationship is with yourself, to the infinite. And then the idea of the relationship of yourself to all other beings equally. By allowing the relationship you are to all other beings to be equal, that is how you are able to consciously, clearly choose any particular individual that represents a reflection you desire to share. Many times when you place more importance on one particular thing than it deserves to have above and beyond anything else, in terms of devaluing everything else, then you do not create an equality that makes it easy for you to pick and choose, because not everything's now on the same level. When the thing you really desire, even though the desire may make it seem to be more important, and even though that thing may be more representative of who you are, that doesn't mean that that desire and that representation makes that particular idea or object or person, place, or thing literally more important in a value sense to any other thing that could happen in your life. When you equalize everything, that's what gives you the greatest ability to choose anything you want. Because everything's on the same level, you don't have to reach very far to get it. It's all right here, right now, right with you, right within. You simply, once again, radiate an idea, and that's what you attract. But many times, if an individual thinks they really need it, then they are placing an undue importance upon it. They are creating it to be a desperation, and that vibration is what keeps it at bay. Understand?
Yes.
Is this being of assistance so far?
I think it's great.
Now, the idea of this primary relationship, what do you imagine it would be like?
I've given up the idea of projecting ideas. I'm at the point where I've stopped projecting.
Why?
I've stopped projecting ideas to the point where I'm reaching out for one specific thing. And
well, you can still do that. All we are saying is, do it without invalidating everything else.
Okay.
Do it recognizing that it may be your preference. By all means, allow yourself to project. But what do you define the idea to be? How do you define primary relationship?
Well, I'm looking for a relationship looking for someone who would be an equal, a reflection,
right.
as you say.
Yes. A reflection of what? What would they be reflecting to you?
Well, someone to share a life with.
Yes. What would you be learning about yourself in that interaction?
What I don't know.
Which is what?
I can't say what that is now.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
If I did, I would know.
Oh, but you see, you do know. You do know. Okay. On some levels, you do know.
Right.
In general, though, we are not asking you for specifics. In general categories, what would you be learning about yourself by being in a relationship? Would you be acting differently in that relationship than you are acting now?
Depends on the interaction. Probably not.
Of course.
But depending on the interaction, I would be growing.
Yes, of course.
And
we're always
expanding.
going to do that.
Right.
But let's say right now, let's say you were in that relationship what would the differences be?
The differences be I would probably be living life, at least at the present, on that constant exciting level that you were talking about.
All right. Then live that way now, and you can attract the relationship more easily.
Good.
Because if that's the way you will be in the relationship, and that's not the way you constantly are now, be that way constantly, and the relationship cannot help but be attracted into your life. Because if that vibration is representative of what the relationship is, then be that vibration. And you'll have it.
Live life passionately every day.
Yes. As we have said, the most important thing of all is the thing you're doing now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Live in the now. Live in the now. It's the only time there is. It's the only place there is. Right here, right now. When you live in the now, anything else that's going to happen in your life won't have any other place or time to happen in except now. Because you will not create there to be any other place or time for it to happen in. Pleasant dreams to you.
Thank you, Bashar.
Well, thank you very much for allowing us to share and interact in a spontaneously created way. At this time in, and with much joy. You may all participate in a short break. We will resume contact in approximately 10 to 15 of your minutes. How's it going?
Great.
Some motherships have the ability to disassemble portions of themselves to create whole planetary colonies if necessary. Shooting!
Hello, Bashar.
And to you good night.
I'm hoping that you can give me some
Oh,
insight.
more hoping. All right.
I am hoping.
Hoping, yes. What?
I have a wonderful daughter.
A wonderful daughter.
Yes. And she has been married for 11 years.
Oh, all right.
And she has wanted a baby more than anything in the world.
More than anything in the world.
Right. She had an operation to clear her tubes so that she could have a child. And in the last 10 months, she's had 3 major operations and ended up $10,000 poorer and no baby. Now she is very weak, very depressed.
Oh, all right.
And can you give me some insight as to why this is happening to her?
Maybe.
On the harmonic convergence, she was 35 years old, which
Okay.
is a 7 completion, the way
All right.
I understand it.
Can be. Maybe. Maybe not absolutely precisely meant in that way in this particular vibrational case as we sense it.
Mm-hmm.
There may be other ideas as well. But can you answer some questions on her behalf?
Yes.
Why does she want the child?
She's always wanted a child. She's
Why?
a motherly type. She loves children.
All right.
That's her whole identity.
That is her whole identity?
Well, it's been very important to her.
Why?
Well, probably because I was a motherly type, and my mother was a motherly type. My mother had a hard time giving birth to me, and I had a hard time giving birth to her.
I see.
And it's like a spiral of energy that keeps repeating itself, getting worse every generation.
So, old definitions that continue to be reinforced from generation to generation.
Right.
All right. Those definitions may be all that creates the block in that sense, as you call it a block. Does she really believe that it must be that difficult? Does she want to believe that it has to be that difficult?
No, I'm sure she doesn't.
All right. Has she allowed herself the opportunity to get in touch telepathically with the consciousness that could potentially be the child?
I think she has.
she was raised with the idea that we create our own reality.
All right.
That she could bring into her life
Yes.
whatever she
However,
wanted.
she may be under the assumption that she has to do all the work. Why not let the child help?
How does she do that?
Well, have a conversation with it. Say, listen, I need some help here. I don't have to do this all by myself. I made an agreement with you. The child, of course, knows this, being not a child at this time.
But now she doesn't have any tubes, so how can she have a child? She can't.
It is still possible.
It is still possible.
Yes. It may simply be that with each successive generation, you have created what appears to be more and more and more limitations, and yet transform them and transform them and transform them. Perhaps now the strength of all of those limitations is vested within her so that she can create one of the greatest transformations of all.
So she's breaking a karmic pattern, you
yes,
might say?
in a sense, yes. Now, the idea in and of itself of what you colloquially call, and I do not mean to in any way, shape, or form tie in what many of you have been brought up to think of as religious connotations. This is completely aside from the main thrust of this idea that we are about to share. Understand?
Yes.
It is quite possible to have what you typically call an immaculate conception. An energy conception. Understand?
That would be a tall order.
If you say so. But that might be to some degree the position she has placed herself in, knowing she can create it on some level. That she is energy. That matter is energy. And that the typical routes within the body that usually are what need to be followed to create any particular physiological manifestation that you call a birth do not necessarily completely apply anymore. We would suggest some inspiration for this individual. There are available, and again, not that they have to play out the way this literature would indicate, but there is literature available on your planet to indicate the idea of what might be called energy births, manifestations, even sometimes that come and go. Totally, absolutely, in your terminology, medically checked, medically reinforced, and yet the birth can come and go. One moment there is a child, the next moment there isn't. Then the child is back again, and then it isn't, and then it is, and then it isn't.
You mean physically?
Physically.
That's a little hard for me to
all right.
to believe.
That's all right. You're not having the baby. You don't have to.
Now, if this, and I'm sure this child already exists.
In a sense, yes, as a consciousness. And again, remember, it isn't a child right now.
All right, this being.
Yes.
Could it appear through an adopted child?
Yes, it could. And that might be one of the ways that the manifestation can occur. Just assume, once again, that no matter what the circumstance is that has come about, that does not have to be looked at as a preventative. It can be looked at as the way that determines the route that will actually serve the best of all concerned, one way or another. And it can be done in an adoptive fashion. It can be done in an energy fashion. But the idea is to be in touch with the child and allow all that are involved to participate in the recognition of what is going on and why. When it is truly allowed to be in touch, when the information and idea for why the birth is occurring is actually played out, when the full understanding is there for the reasons for the agreement, then it will be and can be more obvious as to exactly how those agreements can be fulfilled. The expectation that they must be fulfilled in a certain way is usually the only thing that causes in your society any type of what you label to be a block, an expectation. So sometimes if you focus so strongly on that particular expectation and that's not really the way that's indicative of the agreement that's been made, you will create circumstances in your life to show you in no uncertain terms that the route is different than you thought. Hence, as you say, perhaps the cutting of the tubes. Well, now I know it's not going to be that way. So what other way could it be? Now perhaps I am pointing myself in a direction that shows me there are other ways it could manifest. Because if I really feel the vibration and strongly know it is representative of who I am, then the manifestation must be there. The agreement must be there. And all I'm doing is showing myself that it is probably most likely, most quickly, and most easily available to occur in another way other than the way I have been taught it must occur.
So what do you think about Petri dishes? You know,
if you wish the idea, again, whatever attracts you the strongest. But the idea is to get in touch with the consciousness first. And do not necessarily have to, as you say, stumble around blindly. Allow her in a meditative state to know she can be in communication with that consciousness. Relax, send love, and receive the love. Within what you call a maximum of 3 days of your time is all that is necessary to receive in either a dream communication or in some sort of physiological synchronistic symbol a sign and a signal and a communication from that being to let her know beyond a shadow of a doubt what the route is that the being can most easily take. Understand?
Yes. Thank you.
A coincidental signal will pop into her life within 3 days' time after she centers within herself, sends unconditional love to the being that can be the child, and then just opens up to receive that love and receive the information. Whether she immediately recognizes what it is or not is not the point. Let it come out. Know she has received it, and let it come to the surface within the 3-day span from the point that she does that. Understand?
Okay.
The unconditional love is what is most important.
So that isn't using human will to create something.
In a sense, it is. But the idea of going with the flow is when you're in control. The struggle to try and control the surface idea is actually a resistance to your flow, not a control. True control is going with the flow. Because everything in life is already under your control.
Well, she always thought that, but then this doesn't seem to be under her control.
But it is. It is only that the definition of it has a particular meaning to her, and in that sense has allowed her to believe she is thrown off track because she is simply sidetracked by the original meaning that has been handed down from generation to generation about the way she thinks it has to happen. Again, remember, no circumstance has built-in meaning. You supply the meaning. No matter how it looks on the surface, it doesn't mean anything when it happens in your life until you assign a meaning to it. The meaning you assign to the circumstance is what determines what effect you get out of it. So just because it looks on the surface to be a certain way, you don't have to automatically assume that that's negative or difficult. Assign a positive meaning to it. Well, there must be a positive reason for it happening this way, and then you'll get the positive effect of it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shooting! No, one moment. Tell her happy birthday. And to also send that message to the being.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Very good.
Shooting!
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I beg pardon? How's that? Okay, great. As I told Daryl earlier, I was representing myself and someone else, so it's her question I'll ask you first.
Yes.
Her name is Adrienne, and she's been trying very, very hard for the last year to make a job transition. She wants to become a TV news writer.
Oh, all right.
And does have some limited experience, but wants to get a more permanent job in that industry.
Oh, all right. Is that what is most exciting to that being?
Yes.
Is that being acting like a TV news writer? Or is she still acting like someone who is trying to become a TV news writer? There is a vast difference in those attitudes.
Well, she's going to hear this. I'm afraid she's going to kill me for saying this, but it's the truth. Yeah, she's... I won't tell her there's a videotape of this. I believe she's still acting like she's trying to be TV news.
This in no way, shape, or form is a condemnation nor a blame. The idea simply is a matter, once again, of the fact that your society has created so many definitions that sometimes they seem to be what you are doing, when in fact the definition you are doing is not anything like what you say you prefer. You think it is because you think it's attached, but it is its own definition that really has very little to do with the thing you actually want to be. All the trying in the world is not the doing of the thing. When you finally do something, it's because you finally did it, not because you tried to do it. All the trying usually is simply the time you think or believe is necessary to allow yourself to really believe you can finally do it. The idea, therefore, to put it on very simple terms, is that your friend may simply not be paying attention to the fact that there may be many opportunities she is not allowing herself to take advantage of because she does not necessarily think herself capable of acting on those opportunities because she is not yet the person she wants to be. But the only way she'll be that person is by starting to act like that person now. By doing the things that person would do. By being that person, as we have shared many times, and again this will be brief. The idea is to use the imagination as a tool in the following way. If there is something you want to be that you believe you're not now, create the visualization of that person. See the you want to be. And see that you acting in the way you want to act, doing the things you prefer to do. Then connect and junction with it with all your senses. Feel what it would be like to be that person. Taste, smell, hear, touch, everything. And have the attitude of what it would be like to be that person. Have the style of that person. Do things in the way that person would do, not in the way you're doing it now. Then all you have to do, if there's any circumstance or situation in your life that you don't know how to handle as the you are now, give that circumstance and situation to the you in your imagination, in your visualization, in your picture. Give that situation, hand it over to the person you prefer to be, that you have created yourself to be in your image of yourself. Then watch what that person does with it. See how their attitude is different from yours. See how they handle it successfully. See their boldness and their conviction. See the excitement and the gusto, as you say, with which they do that idea. See them successfully transform it. Then do what they did, and you'll get the same result. That's what your imagination is for. To create a mirror image of the you prefer to be, and then have the boldness and the conviction to act like that you, and you will create the same vibration, you'll get the same lifestyle, you'll get the same result. That's how to use your imagination as a blueprint, as a template, in that way. But it takes a boldness and a conviction and a willingness to understand that as soon as you conceive of that image, that is who you are. All you have to do is act like it to get the same results. If there is anything, any habit pattern, any attitudinal approach that you would be doing differently if you already were that person, differently than the way you are doing it now, do it the way you would do it if you already were that person, and you will be that person. What you put out is what you get back.
Thank you.
Individuals always, always, always are a 100% energy. No more, no less. If you are doing something that you really want to do, 50%, and something you do not prefer, 50%, you cannot expect any further manifestation of the thing you really want to do more than 50%. It's simple mathematics. If you are hanging on to something just to play it safe, to have something to fall back on just in case, then you are not really trusting the you say you prefer to be. You are not really putting 100% of the idea in the direction of the flow you want. I guarantee, as soon as anyone does, you will get it. If you believe you're ready for it. That's another idea. All it takes is an examination. As we have already said to some degree, but now I will put it in its original linear form. What is the clear intention? What is the clear definition of what you want? What is the clear desire? Do you really want it? What is the clear deservability? Do you believe you deserve to get it? If all of those are clear, then act with clear action upon whatever opportunities present themselves that excite you the most at any given moment. Whether they appear connected to what you want or not, the excitement tells you they are, and they will get you where you need to go. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yours?
Okay. Mine is, I'm in the process of producing a film.
All right.
The script all by itself seems to be drawing all the needed personnel to make it.
All right.
The only thing I can't seem to be able to get my hands on is the funding. Mostly because I don't know where to go for it.
All right. Once again, there are many forms of communication and contact in literature and outlets that you may simply not be aware of and may not in your terms be taking advantage of because they may appear to be too obvious. But there are other individuals that have already done what you want to do, are there not?
Quite a few, yeah.
Why don't you go and talk to them?
Most of them have gone the studio route, and I'm trying to go the independent route.
Are there individuals that have ever gone your route before?
Yes.
Go and talk to them. Let them rub off on you. Literally. If anyone has done something that you want to do, associate with them. Watch their vibration. Watch how they act. Listen to how they think. Look at their approach to life. Copy it. Be the vibration. You will still do it your way, but you can match their vibration. And if you do, you'll get the same result. You will act upon the things they have acted upon because they were willing to see things that you simply are not allowing yourself to see because you're not thinking like they do. Go and learn how they think, and you will see the same things they saw. Understand?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is not something to do as an isolated being. Be involved with all those that can, and you may be surprised to discover, are more than willing to assist you in letting some of that vibration rub off.
Do you have any particular direction to go? I mean, there are so many people out there who...
You will know the ones. Do your research.
Okay.
And also, remember, that by having shared this idea now, there may be a few individuals within the group this evening of your time that can also recommend either individuals or literature that can be of assistance to you. All it takes is putting it out there, letting individuals know how they can be of assistance, and then they will give you their recommendations. Take whichever advice feels most correct to you. And if that is your desire, put the desire out there, and then let the synchronicity in your life attract to you whatever it is you need in terms of a source of information. If you have that desire, just put it out there. Then go about your life, acting upon the circumstances that excite you the most. One of those circumstances will attract you into the appropriate circumstances to give you what you need, one way or another. Understand? In other words, if you have done everything you can do, that you can imagine you could do, every opportunity you are aware of has been acted upon, and you are still not getting the result, then simply maintain the fact that this is your desire. This is what you desire, this particular idea. Put the vibration out, then act upon whatever you can act upon that excites you the most, even though it seems unconnected. Let's say, well, all right, I've done that. What is the most exciting thing I could now do? Go for a walk. Well, that doesn't seem to have anything to do with it. All right, that's the most exciting thing. I'll do it. Off you go. And all of a sudden, as you're walking and just daydreaming and looking around, you come across, let's say, what you call one of your bookstores, and you wander in, and you're not thinking about anything in particular, and you overhear a conversation. Oh, this book was most helpful for this, this, and this. What? Where is that book? Oh, right over there. All right, thank you. I'll buy 12. And there is the information you need, which you discovered by doing the thing it excited you the most to do, taking a walk. Understand?
Yes.
One always flows into the next. Excitement is the thread. It leads to all other things that excite you. Follow it.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Sharing.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Lisa.
Good day to you.
You had said last time that in your civilization
Yes.
that you were free of illness.
Yes,
and
thank
that
you.
we would take us 50 to 100 years to get to that point.
On the average. That doesn't mean that an individual can't do it right now.
Right.
And that can change, by the way.
Of course.
It doesn't have to take that long.
Well, my question is, I'm a nurse, and
Yes.
find it difficult to understand why people choose to be ill.
Well, they do not always do it consciously. Many times, because of the way you have created your society to be, they simply are not taught that there is any other way to process what they have to process. So they choose whatever will be the quickest way, even if they think the only way will be through suffering. Because they may not know there is another way to do it, through peace and joy. They don't have to be sick. But because your society fundamentally teaches you from, as you say, day one, you're not in control of your life. What else can you do?
I see.
Understand?
Yes.
It is not that it is always a specific conscious choice. Sometimes it can be. But more often than not, these things are the result of the fears that you buy into. That is the choices we are saying you make. By buying into certain fears, by being diseased, you create disease. Understand?
Yes, I do. I have a question in particular in comatose patients.
Yes.
I've experienced them as not actually being in their bodies. And
sometimes they are, and sometimes, in a sense, they are not.
Well, where do they go when they're not?
Well, they can travel astrally.
I see.
It is, again, akin to what you might call an out-of-body experience. But perhaps this will be of assistance to you as well. All of these things are, in your terminology, very typical ways to phrase the idea of your spirit and your body and the relationship between the two. Your spirit does not actually exist inside your body. Neither does your consciousness. Your body is your spirit in physical terminology. Your consciousness, in that sense, has created your body. Your body exists within your consciousness. What appears to you to be out-of-body travel is actually simply the expansion of your consciousness perspective, so that all of a sudden your perspective is, quote-unquote, out here, and all of a sudden your body is at the center of your consciousness. Rather than your consciousness being simply so tightly focused that it appears that the only place it exists is within your body. But your body actually exists within your consciousness.
I see. So is there a purpose for us to be sick? I mean, we've decided that we've chosen this, or...
Again, the purpose can simply be that individuals can learn certain things from it if they wish to do it that way. Anything can serve a purpose if you use it in a positive way. But the idea is that you do not have to be ill. And one of the primary purposes, to some degree, on one level, is to get so sick and tired of being sick that you finally decide you don't want to do it anymore. When you are truly sick of sickness, you won't be sick anymore. Now, you have done it in almost all the ways you can possibly do it. And any escalation of disease you may now be experiencing on your planet, in a sense, to some degree, is the last vestiges of these ideas coming out and accelerating, because there really isn't very much time left for your civilization to experience things that way. Understand?
Yes, thank you.
You can always reflect to an individual the following idea, for this is the thing that has not yet been taught for thousands of years on your planet. Every individual is as powerful as he or she needs to be to create anything they desire with integrity without having to harm anyone else or themselves in order to create it. That is what you are not taught.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shooting!
Right, Dave.
And to you. Good day.
It's been a beautiful day down here. I don't know what's happening down there. Up there.
Over there.
I have a question about Kachinas.
Yes.
I was reading a book about them that had different stories about them.
Yes.
And there was one story where the actual Kachinas were interacting with the people. It wasn't the men wearing the mask.
I understand.
And they said that after a day of dancing and such, that the men were around the fire, and one of them made like a joke of the Kachinas, like something disrespectful, and then there had been a Kachina present, and he went back and told the other Kachinas, and they, I don't know if they warned him or not, but they came the next day and killed all the village. I guess there was like a few women and children. I was just wondering if that was like an interpretation of something.
Yes and no. The idea is that when you are dealing with Kachina energy, you are dealing with a very raw state of universal power. It manifests itself in an archetypal way, in a way that appears to be the way they appear to you. That is not their absolute appearance. They do not have an absolute appearance. But the idea is also that since they are such a raw state of power, then the entire fundamental structure of the universe, what you put out is what you get back, is amplified 1,000-fold in their presence. It is not that they are, in that sense, actually performing a hostile act. It is that if you do tap into their energy, and then you create a negative vibration, you can cause vast negative vibrational manifestations upon yourself.
Yeah, they said that after that the Kachinas gave them word that if they wouldn't interact with them anymore personally, that they would, to make the masks, and to when the men put the masks on, then they would get the spirit, would come into them, but they wouldn't interact after that face to face.
Because they recognize that as far as your civilization is concerned, interacting with them at the level that sometimes you interact would be analogous to sticking your finger into a live socket. Understand?
If I wanted to just be in contact, I just have to have the desire and the intent.
Yes. And simply understand that your intention is one of integrity and joy. And you will always feel the amplification of the energy in a positive way. It is simply that they are such a raw state of power that any positivity or negativity that is in that sense thrown at them or toward them will be automatically bounced back again 1,000-fold, perhaps even more. That is a loose terminology. Because in that state, when you are involved in their vibration, you are right at the fundamental crossroads of all universal realities, because they are those consciousnesses that, quote-unquote, inhabit the planes in between the universes. Therefore, they are responsible for sustaining the very fabric of the structure of all the different universes themselves, in a sense. Understand? They are, as we have called them many times, an extraterrestrial's extraterrestrial. They are outside all the experiences that we, both you and I, would typify as normal universal realities. They are interwoven into the very fabric of the structure that sustains everything you and I call a universal reality.
So I wouldn't be getting into more than I was asking for, because
no,
my intentions are good, and
you will only receive, in that sense, whatever you can handle.
Yeah,
it is simply that that individual made a choice to operate on a particular level, as told in the story, but then on the same level chose to reverse the polarity while in midstream. Think what that would do to many of your electronic devices. It will do the same to all of you if you're standing in the flow. Understand?
Yes.
That is all there is to it. So, simply have the intention of going in the same direction you started out in, and you will find that it will be, in your terminology, quite safe and quite enjoyable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharing.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about my past lives.
Maybe, maybe not. Again, remember that
Or
we are
your
usually
perception.
at first hesitant to simply go ahead and label many of these ideas, because we do not want to draw you out of the present where all of your power is. The idea, therefore, will always be for us to ask you first, what areas are you most drawn to? Because each and every one of you have the strongest ability to tap into anything you have ever been. So open the doors for us first, and we will see what we are allowed to share with you.
Well, I sense a certain dichotomy in my life. I mean...
All right. In what sense?
I feel a knowingness and a spiritual awareness, but yet there's something clouding that or holding me back from...
Holding you back. Are you using your awareness to do the things that you really want to do?
Yes, I'm working on it.
Working on it, all right.
I mean, I feel as if I'm growing in that area.
All right.
But,
what is it you do want to do?
I want to lessen my holds that I have on myself. Or maybe...
You want to what?
Put myself in touch with the tools that will allow me to expedite
all
what
right.
I'm after.
But you are creating so many steps. What is it you want to do once you have the tools?
I want to free my spirit.
By doing what? What do you mean, free your spirit? What is your definition of that line?
Living my life as a free and loving being.
All right. What is stopping you from doing that now?
I'm not entirely sure.
Well, all right. Does it seem like there really is anything stopping you from living that way?
Yes, it does.
What?
I don't know. That's what I'm up here asking. You know, if I knew that, I could figure it out.
All right.
It seems very, very elusive to me.
But if you don't know what it is, maybe it doesn't really exist.
Oh, that's possible.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, how about this? If it is possible, why not act as if that is the way it is, and if anything really is there, then you'll find out.
Ah, that's true.
How about that?
End of subject.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep it simple. Shooting!
Hi, Bashar.
Good day to you.
I'd like to know, why do people take on the characteristics of other people that they hang around with? You know,
because they start identifying with their vibration and start mirroring it. Because they, in that sense, identify with them. They wish to reflect to them certain ideas. They wish to join a particular miniature consensus reality and flow in the same direction. So they can, in a sense, work together as one, even though they are individuals. That is why individuals in love will very often exhibit similar traits to each other and know each other's thoughts, because they are identifying with each other so strongly that they are mirroring each other's vibration. It is not that anyone in that sense is literally reading each other's minds directly. It is that when you identify very strongly with an individual and you exist on the same frequency, then you translate your thoughts in the same way or a similar way to the way they do. And you become very much alike, even though you still have differences.
but I mean, just like when you go up and you first meet someone, just the way they speak, you start speaking like them, even though you've never met them before, or you start acting like them or doing whatever.
Because as a form of communication, it allows you both to express to each other that you are willing to see in the other their validity. It makes communication easier because you are reflecting back to them an aspect of themselves that you discover within you as well. It is simply, to put it on a very simple level, called mirroring. And when you mirror someone, not in a mocking way, but in a truly identifying way, it allows a flow of communication to go more easily, because you are, once again, creating a similar vibration, a similar wavelength, by literally copying each other's format. And it allows communication to flow more easily, because you're on the same wavelength. Literally, you can create the same wavelength by physically mimicking someone else. Again, not in a mocking way. But your body language, if you identify it strongly with another individual's body language, will automatically create a flow of communication, not only on a physical, but a non-physical level, and will make communication between you easier. That's why it's an automatic thing. Understand?
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Shooting!
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I'm so glad to be here with you again.
Oh, all right.
And I must compliment Daryl on his wonderful T-shirt with whales. That's what I want to talk about.
Whales.
Whales.
All right.
I went to SeaWorld yesterday again.
All right.
And
getting to know you there, are they?
Oh, yes, I think they are.
All right.
I'm certainly feeling that they are.
Yes.
This time I was able to pet the pilot whales.
Pet the pilot, yes.
They are so wonderful. And I felt during that interaction with them when one of them actually stayed in front of me and let me pet him for some time.
All right.
And I felt through that I was really contacting the consciousness of pilot whales everywhere.
In a sense, yes, to some degree.
This has been something I'm very interested in because,
all right.
As I spoke to you before in Hawaii, I'm working with the International Wildlife Coalition on a project to allow the Faroe Islanders up near Greenland to perceive that they don't really have to slaughter pilot whales for sport, but there are other ways to interact with them.
Yes.
Much more positive, much more loving ways.
Yes.
And so
ways that the whales would also prefer.
Yes, I'm sure. So through the interaction with these two pilot whales at SeaWorld, I really felt that. And I don't know if I mentioned this before. I guess I talked to a friend about it. I actually took a very smooth, sturdy rubber, actually neoprene, I guess, beach ball down there a few weeks ago and threw it into the middle of the pool for the dolphins to play with. And my one concern, I knew that the dolphins couldn't hurt themselves or no one could be injured. And I knew management, wasn't too pleased about the idea of anyone doing that. But I knew they couldn't hurt themselves. And as a matter of fact, the girl that was on duty there took it out and then she gave it to me because she said she didn't have the authority to throw it back in, but she... And I told her that I had put it in, and she said, well, I can't throw it back in, so she let me do it. And my one concern was that perhaps because the pilot whales are so large that they conceivably could swallow it. Although I didn't think they would.
Not really.
No, and what happened was they swam around and they played with it, but they just pushed it with their noses. And I felt that they had actually picked up that idea that I had.
Well, to some degree, but understand they already knew it. They were to some degree reflecting, and what you, in that sense, were sensing as your desire for them, in a sense, you were actually picking up from them. Although it was a two-way idea. But they already understand the parameters of their environment to that degree.
Yes.
It would be analogous, let us say, to someone tossing you what you would call a tennis ball. Do you think you could swallow that very easily?
Now I see your point.
Thank you.
It would have to be a ping pong ball.
Yes. And even then, you have what you call your gag reflex.
That's true. Why is it then that the dolphins occasionally do swallow foreign objects and sometimes fail?
It will depend upon the symbology. But remember that they are still individuals as well. And they have, in many ways, certain ideas that they are willing to play out within their own lives in different ways. Certain symbols that are reflected to them in certain ways. And society patterns that to some degree they also are reflecting in their individual motives.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yes, I do.
Oh, well, thank you.
Would you be willing to share something with us about orcas? My friend Karen's here, and we're both...
Well, you know what we already have shared about the idea of the orca.
The sorcerers and the samurai of the sea.
Yes, the black and white of polarity.
Yes.
That when you, in that sense, mimic their path, then you are very boldly expressing conviction, and in very many ways there is no turning back.
I have felt that more and more lately.
They are the expression of polarity consciousness itself. And as you have already suggested, as we have said, they are the samurai and the sorcerer. They are the warriors of the sea. Not meant in what you would call a negative way. But they have that spirit of conviction. They tunnel through different dimensions. And if you ride with them, you must expect to go on that ride with your eyes open. And be prepared for all the changes that occur. For they are very strongly transformational beings. And any structure that you may have built up that doesn't fit in their world will come apart very quickly. They will allow you to face anything you might call a fear and process it now.
Yes, I know this is true.
Yes.
That's why it's so exciting to me to go to SeaWorld and see them playing with their trainers and see the love and the interaction and the trust. Yesterday
Be brief.
Yes, they had 2 more orcas there.
Yes.
From a facility in Ohio that are there on vacation. And so there were 4 orcas and 4 trainers, and they actually rode them out of the water up onto the platform.
Yes.
And it was magic. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar. Love to you.
Our love to you.
And Esasani.
Yes. Shooting.
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I would like you to interpret a dream for me, if you will.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe you can, too.
I had a series of 3 one-scene dreams. If time is short, I'll just ask you the first one.
All right.
I dreamed that I was in a relatively bare room. There was like a linoleum or marble floor or something. There was a very dark-skinned man sitting against a wall. He was all huddled up like he was in pain or fear or something.
All right.
And in my dream, I walked over to him and I placed my hands on the side of his head.
Yes.
and someone said something to him through me.
And?
Then the scene honed in on me, and I had a shirt on with a white collar. And on the collar were the letters C-U-E-O, and then a space, and then the letter U. Do you have any idea what those letters meant?
There are aspects, pieces of the vibration. Continue for a moment.
Well, that was the end of that dream.
What did you say to the individual?
I don't know. It was like my dreams, that when I have them, when I remember them, they're all telepathic. There never seems to be words.
One moment. Some of this, to some degree, on one level, is a Lemurian connection to aspects of yourself. Some of it is a connection to other cultures as well, but mostly this is a connection. One moment. What do you do?
I don't work.
What do you do?
Well, I read a lot and study a lot and try very hard to grow. I read constantly, trying to understand the spiritual aspects of life.
Where do you think that is heading? Where will it take you?
I don't know. I hope to a closeness to God, to an understanding of that.
Do you understand that you are made of God?
Yes.
Do you understand that everything, therefore, that you do, in a sense, is an act of God?
Yeah.
How much closer can you get?
Well, I still feel that there's almost like a veil between us and our understanding of what God is. The veil, I think, is becoming thinner and thinner.
Yes, in a sense.
Yeah.
But that veil is only a definition of one reality to another thing you think is another level of reality. It is only the definition of your dimension as you have defined it. One moment. Have you allowed yourself to get into touch with the polarities within you as well? Have you examined the idea of not only the positive but the negative ideas within you?
Within me as an individual?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. How do you feel about the ideas of negativity?
I am clearing out most of the negatives in my life. I'm digging them up, understanding them, looking at them, and learning from them.
All right, then you are transforming them into positive energy.
Right.
All right, very good. Do you understand that negative has no more power than anything else? That everything is equal?
Yes.
And that these things are just choices?
Yeah.
All right, one moment. Is there any particular place upon your planet, physically, that you would rather be than where you are?
Yeah, someplace that's very quiet.
Which is?
Oh, maybe the mountains.
Any particular area?
Yeah, Mount Shasta, maybe.
Mount Shasta, maybe?
Mount Shasta.
All right. You're sure now?
Yes.
Oh, all right. What will you do when you go there? And when will you go?
I think we're on a long guessing game here.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The idea simply is that as we perceive your energy, there are, in your terms, many gaps in our ability to access certain information. Therefore, we are guiding you around, steering you around to see what other information is released in this process. Because there is something that, in that sense, is preventing us from giving you a direct answer. And usually that has to do with the process that you are still unfolding. Therefore, we do not have access to something that will interrupt your flow. So we are, in this sense, discovering certain aspects, certain parameters, certain definitions about you, so that we can see how this flow ties into the question you have asked.
Well, I think that if I had the time to really spend by myself on Mount Shasta, I would spend that time trying to... Okay, I would spend that time discovering my relationship to God.
All right. How about your relationship as God? Or does that sound off kilter to you? And if so, why?
I believe that we are all a part of God.
Yes. But remember that every part contains the whole.
Well, it's like the ocean consists of many drops of water.
Yes.
But the drop of water is not the ocean.
Oh, yes, it is.
It has all the properties of the ocean.
What's the difference?
Quantity.
That's a definition.
Maybe.
Let's put it another way.
Okay.
Another analogy that we have used is to think of a grid spread out long and flat, lines this way, stretching to infinity, all right?
Okay.
Take what you call a shiny ball bearing, reflective surface. Put it anywhere on the grid. All right?
Okay.
The reflection of the entire grid is in that ball bearing. The entire grid. All the information, any information you could discover anywhere on that grid, you can discover all in that one spot in the surface of the ball bearing. Understand?
Yes.
Everything you call physical reality is only the product of the information that it is, the definitions that it is. One drop is the whole ocean. Whether that makes sense in your physiological reality or not, one drop, if it contains the entire idea of the information of the ocean, is the whole ocean. And it is only a matter of your definitional degree that makes it seem to be different.
Well, now, if you're turning that around to us all being God...
Yes.
I think the potential for us to all be God is there, but I think we have to clear a lot of negatives, and I think there's a great deal of growth that we have as individuals.
Oh, I'm not saying that's not the case.
No.
But it is more than a potential.
Okay, what I would do on Mount Shasta would be discover the potential in full.
All right. But it isn't a potential.
Oh,
it is what you are. I understand the terminology you are using. I know the way you mean it. But all we are suggesting is that what may give you a more accelerated ability to get in touch with what it is you say you want to get in touch with will be to understand that that's what you already are. And all that you're doing is discovering that.
Well, what I am is that in the raw. I'd like to polish it.
All right.
Okay.
To some degree, that is so. Polish away.
Okay.
But the idea is that when you do polish it, you will be that shiny ball bearing that reflects everything.
Oh, I believe that is true of all.
Yes.
Of everyone.
Yes. Now, that aspect of the dream, to some degree, is representative of that. You are speaking to yourself in the dream. That individual that you took in your hands and spoke to some degree, is a portion of your own consciousness. A portion that contains a certain definition. A certain definition that makes you still seem to be within a universe, rather than recognizing yourself as the universe. This is the whole symbolic idea of the transformational age on your planet completely. Any acceleration that you do will be the process of discovering that you actually are the dimension that you previously thought you existed in as a part of. That is the whole idea of growth and expansion. To actually recognize that you are the dimension you previously thought you were only a part of. But, in whatever way, shape, or form it serves you to do this, have a wonderful time. We would simply suggest that if you do have a propensity to go to a certain place, that if a certain place does attract you, we suggest that you do in fact go. Because that will be the magnetic field that will be most aligning to you, to accelerate you in the ways you desire to be accelerated. All right?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your expression and for allowing us to see the aspect of the infinite you chose to be.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
There's something I've been thinking about and reading about a lot recently, and it has to do with the question of free will versus control, and I'm thinking specifically...
You mean control in the sense of destiny?
I mean control in the sense of mind control through things like implants.
Implants?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering to what extent implants are actually used, wondering to what extent Atlantean techniques of implants have been used in the past, and to what extent people today are implanted either by extraterrestrials or are still carrying implants from Atlantean times.
The idea you are calling out as an implant can perhaps more precisely be called a seed. And in this way, the idea of a seed is not something that controls, it is something that unlocks. It is something that allows there to be transformations that are conducive of the vibratory agreements that individuals made, usually prior to the physical life. They are, in that sense, receivers, not controlling units. They may be, in a sense, altering units, but only in the format that the energy they are implanted into already exists. Only in the format that represents the unfolding that is a portion of the idea of the agreement that they made. It is an accelerative device in that sense. But it is not really a device as you understand it at all.
Yeah, that's what I've been wondering. Is this something that the soul has to agree to in order for it to happen?
Absolutely. It does not ever happen against your choice. It cannot happen against your choice. Because your choice creates you to be a certain vibration. Whatever vibration you are cannot be experienced by whatever is not your vibration. And you cannot interact with anything that is not on the same frequency, in general terms. Understand?
Yes.
Does that answer your question sufficiently for now? For there is not much time remaining for this interaction.
Yes, I understand that.
Will that do?
Yes.
Do not worry about the idea of control. You always have freedom of choice. Always. 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 Pleasant dreams.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this timing, allow us once again to share with each and every one of you our utmost appreciation and to remind each and every one of you that there are no accidents, and every single thing that has occurred this evening of your time has on some level sparked and opened and unlocked a door within you all. You are never present to hear something that does not serve you on some level, or are not present in some way to be of service in allowing all other individuals to come to the determinations they desire to come to. You all play a part, no matter what the degree of significance of any particular act for any of you, you all play a part. You are all an orchestration of energy. And there are no accidents in your gatherings. We thank you for being that individual and collective reflection. Once again, next week of your time, we will reflect some other ideas in the format, in honor of your All Hallows Eve, of what you call a ghost story, our version. Until such timing, we extend our deepest appreciation for your willingness to support and generate and co-create this interaction as it unfolded within the dream we are dreaming together now. Because this is a dream. You are dreaming right now. Wake up and live the dream you prefer to. You might as well. We thank you and bid you a fond, ecstatic, and refreshing good day.
Good day, Bashar.
How did it go?
Great.